Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Even If podcast. I'm your host, Kristi Lowe, and you know I'm always so very glad you're back with us today. If you can see me, you're watching this on YouTube. We have started a YouTube channel where we're adding the episodes now as we go up into YouTube. So check that out if you haven't. If you happen to be watching it on YouTube, you can see that I am wearing my lovely headband and my hair is back in little knots because tomorrow I get my hair done and it gets colored, and I am not washing my hair tonight for tomorrow's hair coloring. So you're getting me the day before haircut day. So, sorry. You're getting summertime Kristi today, right here in the flesh. That's just who I am. And so, anyways, I think you're in for a treat. But today, before we start, just a quick 5 seconds. If you have not subscribed to the newsletter, go subscribe to the newsletter. If you are not subscribed to this podcast, please subscribe to the podcast. Every Tuesday is when our episodes come out. And so if you'll subscribe, you'll always get them. Okay. And then if you're not connected with us on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube now, because we're just exploding in all of our technology, aren't we? So if you haven't done that, feel free, go ahead and get those checked out. Okay, really exciting. There's one more piece of information that I've got to give you before we get started today. And y'all, I have been like itching. And we're going to start talking about what it really means to live out an even if faith. We're going to tackle the reasons why your faith maybe either has stalled or you're struggling or you're just having a hard time believing that God is real or that he has really got your best in mind. And for the first time since we've started this podcast, I'm going to be more vulnerable with you guys because I have not really shared a lot about my own even if story. I mean, I don't think anybody starts a podcast called Even If without having a pretty significant even if moment in their life. And for the first time since, we've started doing this, I'm going to share with you guys some of my story too. And not just what happened, but how for the past 7 years, I have watched God heal me from the inside out. I was in truly just a really broken and hard and dark place and had been for a long time. About 7 years ago, some things in my life fell apart, and from that point on, I have watched God heal and restore my life. And so it truly was my own even if moment. It was what God did in my life. I've watched him take me from the hardest places to the most beautiful place. And it's not because of what I've done, it's because of who he is. And so mark your calendars. September 5th, we're starting it. It's going to be awesome. He is going to restore the places long broken. He's going to bind up the brokenhearted, and he is going to heal areas of our life that maybe you thought were too long gone, or you thought were so far gone that could never be restored. And so I have so much hope and expectancy for what he is going to do this fall, and I can't wait to get started with you guys. So that's enough of that. We still have a story today. We're talking about friendships. And in terms of friendships, I'm just dumb. I've done some of the stupidest, dumbest things with the people who love me. And this story is no exception. So without further ado, let's get started. My friend Lynn and I met when I was in college. And she was a little older than me. She had kids. She wasn't quite old enough to be my mom, but we were far enough in gap that we weren't contemporaries. And by this point in my life, I was already dating John, and Lynn and her family, her crew just kind of took us in. We were part of the family. And while John and I finished undergrad, we babysat for them. Sometimes she would need extra hands to get kids to, tennis lessons or baseball practice. And her husband worked pretty crazy hours. And so John and I kind of just became part of the family, for lack of a better word. And we called the kids our practice kids. That was because we were young and didn't have kids. And so we called them our practice children. And these were just good people. They were just people that fortunately that God had put in our lives just when we needed them. And when we got married, John and I did a couple of years later, our kids were in our wedding. I mean, I still refer to them as my practice children. They were the best. It was the best. And our lives just fit together. You know how you meet those people and like it's like you have enough commonality and you jibe. You just there's a connection there. And so that was Lynn for me. And we had known each other about 9 years when this stupidity on my part happened. And I was about 6 months pregnant with our second child. So this was in about 2006. And summer of 2006, I am like beach whale looking pregnant and with our son. And Lynn had called me one day. We were talking on the phone and we're just talking. And the subject comes up that a mutual friend of ours has a roll top desk, like one of those like solid oak roll top desks that are like really nice and like really pretty. And I mean, it was really nice. Okay. And so she and I are talking about it and she's going on and on about how our friend is selling it. And then she says to me, she says, you should buy it. Well, I told her, thank you, but I wasn't interested. Okay. At that point, we had this utilitarian desk that was set up in our spare bedroom that was neither nice or pretty, but it was functional. And as it turned out, that's about all we could afford at the time because being a young couple, we had 2 student loan payments. We had a mortgage, we had a kid, we had a second kid on the way, and I was staying home with our kids. So we had one income and, financially things were just tight. And so, honestly, I couldn't afford the desk back then. And truth be told, I'm sure I would have loved to have bought it, but we just couldn't afford it. The problem was I didn't want to tell Lynn that. I didn't want to say to her, well, we don't have the coin for that this month, Lynn. And if I had not been prideful and I had just told her that, this conversation would probably be a lot more boring. But because like I said, I can be dumb sometimes, I had a lot of pride in me and I didn't want to say out loud to her that we couldn't afford it because Lynn was older than me. And like whenever somebody's a little bit older than you and they're just more established and they've been doing it a little bit longer, they got a little bit more coin in their pocket, or maybe they just got a little bit more resources or, what have you, that kind of thing. And so just in pride, I didn't want to say it. So Lynn drops it. No big deal. She didn't say anything. And I think we've moved on. So we keep talking on the phone for a few more minutes. The thing about it though, Lynn doesn't take no for an answer very easily. And once she makes her mind up about what she thinks is best or what she wants to accomplish, she's one of those very goal-driven, like dog on a bone. Like she gets stuff done. Okay. She's one of those people. And once she makes her mind up about something, Katie barred the door, like she's going to get it done, y'all. She's just going to give it done. And I love that about her. I really do. Like, I love this woman. I need to reiterate this whole time. I love this human. Okay. But sometimes that bulldog in that woman, it bleeds over to other areas of her life. And she had somehow, for some reason, she had made up her mind that I needed this. I needed this desk. And so a little while later, we're still talking on the phone and she says something again. And she tells me again that I should buy it. And for some reason, y'all, this time it just hacked me off. Like I would love, like I said, I would love to blame it on pregnancy hormones or whatever. But it was just, I didn't want to tell her I couldn't afford it. I didn't want to get into that because then I didn't want her to be like, I'll buy it for you. I didn't want any sort of that, y'all. I was just trying to get out of the conversation. But this time when she says I should buy it, something just came over me. She had shoulded me, and I don't like to be shoulded. Y'all know what I mean? Like, you should do this or you should be that. No. I don't want to be shoulded. Nobody likes to be shoulded. Can I get an amen on that? Nobody likes to be shoulded. Anyways, don't should on other people. That's rude. Okay. That's my PSA for today. Anyways, so something inside me snaps at this point. Okay. Like I fully realize this is irrational, but something snaps inside of me. And I say to her that she is not the boss of me. And that even if she is older than me and thinks she knows better, I didn't need her telling me what I should do. I mean, super, super mature on my part, right? Yeah, it gets better because I hung up on her then. I straight up, yeah, I hung up on my friend over a desk, a desk. I hung up on my friend over a desk. Oh, y'all. I mean, do I need to even say how dumb and prideful this is that I hung up over? Oh, yeah. I'm not proud of this. Uh, but I am sure none of you probably can relate to this, right? You've probably never argued with a friend over something dumb. You've probably never fought about stuff that didn't matter, or it was total irrational pettiness. I'm sure none of you have ever been irrationally petty about something, right? Right. Right. But it gets better because, or as they say, but wait, there's more. Because pregnant Kristi, in all of her wisdom, chock full of wisdom in her 6 months of pregnancy, decided that being shoulded by Lynn was just the point of no return for us. And I decided to ice her out for the next 2 months. I didn't speak to her for 2 months. Because she told me I should buy a desk. Yeah. I'm real proud of this. Have I mentioned that? I am. Why? Why do we go and try to jack it up like that sometimes? We quit on people over dumb stuff, and I surely am not the only one who has done that, right? I mean, I surely I'm not the only one who has gotten petty about stuff, held a grudge, copped an attitude, like she done me wrong. I ain't gonna forgive her. We're done. I mean, like, come on, right? I will say I'd tell you this story with permission from Lynn, of course. I wanted to make sure she didn't turn on the podcast one day and be like, oh my gosh, you totally told that story. I try to be respectful whenever I'm going to talk about other people or other stories on here. I make sure that they know that it's coming. But anyways, I want you to think for a second. I want you to consider for a moment what a real friendship is. What separates a friend from, say, an acquaintance or somebody you know at the office, like a coworker, or somebody you go to school with or church with, or somebody just you've met through your kids' school connections or PTA booster stuff. Where is the line? Where does that change over from being like a coworker or an acquaintance to actually being a real friend? Okay. That's what I want us to talk about today, because we could go a lot of places with this about how to not be a dumb friend. We could spend a whole hot minute on that. We could talk about the reasons why we need friends, which there are a gazillion reasons why we need friends. We could talk about the blessings of having a friend, which there are also a gazillion reasons that there are blessings that come from having friends. But I think that it's important for us to start talking about what a real friend looks like. The real deal. What's the real deal? Who are the real deals in your life? And I think that takes some introspection. I think it takes a little bit of thought, and sometimes it takes a little bit of honesty. Okay, so I'll promise you this. Today I'm going to be honest with you about some of the things and the ways I've struggled. If you promise me that you, in turn, will be honest with yourself or honest with the people in your life about what real friendship is and how we can start having some more authentic relationships with the people in our lives, because we are created for them. We need these friendships. We need real, authentic, deep connections with people. And I had that with Lynn, right? I mean, I tried to go foul it up, okay? But we need these people in our lives. So I think that in this day and age of online dating and social media and the technology and these gifts of technology that God has given with, but the way we talk and relate to people it has changed significantly over the past 20 years. And I'm not going to say, I don't want to get anybody mad at me here. I'm not going to say that we cannot have friends online. Do not hear me say that, okay? But there's something about a real life, lived out in person relationship that you just can't have online. You can have connections with people online. I have connections with people online that I've never met, like in various groups and things of that nature, but they're not my real friends. Okay? So you can have online friends, but I don't think online friends can ever replace eyeball to eyeball conversations that you have, hugs, or just time spent together physically in the presence of one another. I just don't think that online can ever replace that. So take the people that are truly in your life physically. I'm not talking about your online friends, okay? How do you know you have a real friendship? Or if you don't know if you have a real friend, how do you start cultivating authentic, godly relationships with the people in your life? And I think that there are three indicators. I think there's three things that are at least a foundation that will either, I think they serve as a beginning. Okay, I think of it in terms of a foundation. And I'm specifically not going to talk about commonality. I'm not talking about socioeconomics. I'm not talking about culture. I'm not talking about even whether you go to the same church or the same denomination. I'm not talking about any of that stuff, because I think that well, I don't need to devolve into what I think about all of that, but I think that we have just in a culture so kind of put ourselves into a box sometimes. Anyways, I don't want to digress on that. I think there's three indicators. You either know you're on the right track to cultivating an authentic relationship, a godly relationship with someone, or you realize, yep, this person is the real deal in my life. And the first one is this: belonging. Is literally one word: belonging. I think we so underestimate how important that word is, y'all. Oh, in Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, she talks about the difference between fitting in and belonging. Ooh, I'm going to tell you, that's part of why I'm just going to be really vulnerable with y'all today here, is because for a long time, I just tried to fit in. I just tried to fit in. I never felt like I belonged because I always just tried to fit in. And when you stop trying to fit in, you get to start living more authentically. When you are accepted for who you are without having to put a mask on or pretend you're somebody you're not, that's belonging. When you can just be who you are. Fitting in means I got to change who I am. Fitting in means I've got to fit another person's narrative or expectations. Belonging means that I don't have to change. I can just be myself. And by the way, if you have not read that book, I'm going to put a link to it in our show notes. Oh my gosh, y'all. It's phenomenal. I'm not telling you what you should do. Sorry, I'm not going to should anybody today. I would just say it is an exceptional book that has just really helped me it has really helped me see more clearly with on some really big things like fitting in and belonging and shame. And oh my gosh, it's just been a great book. So I'm putting that in the show notes for you. So that's the first thing. Okay. The second thing, you want to identify your authentic relationships. The first one was one word: belonging. The second one is just this: authentic friendships want God's best for you. Really. Really. They want what is best for you. Real friends celebrate your wins without seeing it as their loss. Real friends trust that God has a plan for both of you. And sometimes your success or blessing or achievement, when those things come, it's not a threat to them, and it doesn't negate their worth or their value. And it goes both ways here, y'all. And you remember this whole conversation, this all has to go both ways. I don't mean to digress, but I'm just going to tell you that too, is that you've got to be accepting of people and they've got to accept you. There's got to be an authentic, like, there has got to be an authentic desire for God's best for both of you, within each of you. If a friendship is going to be real and we're going to get somewhere with this, it's got to be authentic in this way. We've got to stop being jealous of people when they get something we want. We got to stop holding a grudge because they're getting their way, or it looks like everything's going better for them, or we're keeping score because they called us 4 times and we didn't call them. And the pettiness and the jealousy and the scorekeeping mess that some of y'all are doing. Like, A, I can't keep score. I can't count that high. B, I inhale sharply at calling people back. I'm awful. Like, please call me if we're friends and you're like, is she dead or alive? You have to call me, okay? Sometimes I think it's that pettiness and that immaturity of stuff that keeps some of us on the sidelines from getting vulnerable with people, because we're so tired of the people just not wanting God's best for you and using it against you. Has anybody ever been that way? Like, you've been in a relationship and you realize, like, oh my gosh, could you be more petty? Yeah, I've been there. That's not a friend. A real friend wants God's best for you and is going to celebrate you and is going to celebrate your wins without jealousy or threat. I could go on and on I could get on my soapbox about that one, y'all, and just get a megaphone for the people in the back. Whew. Okay. Anyways, number 3. Authentic friends, the real ones, they don't quit on you. I'm not saying you should be a bad friend and expect to have great friends. You got to put some effort into it. But a real friend doesn't quit on you over the petty stuff. As I just told you, I didn't call my friend for 2 months because of being petty. Yeah, okay. See, I'm learning here, y'all. Growth. Hey, look at us. That was also 17 years ago, so I'm pretty sure it's water under the bridge now. But y'all, real friends don't quit on each other. I learned that the hard way here, y'all. I'll just tell you right here. I learned that the hard way because I quit on some people earlier in my life. I've quit on people before that I regret it. I don't know if you had that. You got some friends in your life that you quit on them when it got tough, or you quit on them whenever, it didn't go your way, or you were keeping score and they eventually went, okay, you win. But a real friend doesn't quit on you. And fortunately for me, God His blessing and His mercy. A couple of weeks before I was due to give birth to Cameron, I'm going to try real hard to not get emotional when I say this, because, man, I came home one day and there was a gift on my front porch wrapped in blue paper. I opened it up and there's just a little note, and all it said was, I love and I miss you, Lynn. Yeah. She didn't quit on me. Thank goodness that woman did not quit on me. And I crumbled. Oh my gosh. I folded like a cheap tent, as they say, because that bossy woman, who is one of the dearest, she is one of my dearest friends. Even though I had iced her out and been so petty for 2 months, she refused to give up on us and our friendship. I'd love to tell you that it was the only time that her determination has been our saving grace. But as it turns out, it hasn't, because you're going to let people down. It's just part of it. We've talked about that on here before. But her determination and her not quitting on us was our saving grace. She could have said, I'm out. I mean, she could have been like, all right, Petty Patty, I'm out. Like, I ain't doing this. But she didn't. She showed right back up. I called her and we made amends, and we haven't ever had a fuss like that again. We are still friends to this day. Like I said, she knows good and well I'm sharing this story. I can tell you, and by the way, personal growth, I've never hung up on her again. Doesn't that say, look, I've grown up. Aren't you proud of me? But we've I'm kidding, y'all. I've never hung up on her again though. And we don't go too long now without seeing one another, but she a number of years ago she moved to the Dallas Fort Worth area, which is about 5 hours from where I live, and so we don't get to see each other near as often as we used to, but she's the kind of friend, she has celebrated me over and over. She's prayed over me when I didn't have the words, and I've prayed over her when she didn't have the strength. God, that woman. When she moved to Dallas, it would have been really easy for her to just quit on us or let things go, or, it would have been easy for her to move on. And yet, despite the distance and the decades now of it, our friendship has grown and it's stretched. And as we've gotten older, maybe a little wiser. And it's survived the times when we let each other down. It's survived the times when we failed to love one another well, or, and that's especially me. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. That woman has put up with so much crap from me, y'all. She is going to get an extra jewel in her crown whenever she gets to heaven because she has put up with me all these years, y'all. I adore her. As I'm telling you this story, this could be hitting you a couple of ways. Some of you are just sitting over there and you are thanking Jesus for the friends he's given you. These are the people who are showing up for you and doing your laundry when your kitchen floods and praying over you, and they're speaking truth and life into you. They're laughing with you and at you. Those are the people. Like, your life is richer because of them, right? The second the second way this could be hitting you is, maybe you're realizing that some of the people that you've been calling quote unquote friend, maybe they're not really an authentic relationship, and that just needs some reevaluation. It could be that you just need to reevaluate what these boundaries are of it. Maybe it needs more time and effort. Maybe it's going to require some vulnerability on your part. But the third of you could be possibly that you're realizing you don't have anybody like this in your life right now. And no matter where you are between those three, I do not think it's wrong to ask the Lord for a godly friend. And He knows, y'all. God knows we need connection because He's the one who wired us for it. So it's okay. Ask Him. It is okay to say, God, I need some good friendships. And He's going to say back to you, okay. That is, He does not call us to live and walk this life alone. I'm going to tell you something, okay? It's going to take work. It's going to take effort. And it's going to take vulnerability. It's going to take getting through some of those hard times. It's going to take forgiving people for hanging up on you whenever you're pregnant and acting a fool. But one of the things that God has prompted me to say to you today, and because somebody needs to hear this today, don't believe the lie that you don't need friends, or they're not worth the effort, or that you're better off doing this life alone. Don't believe it. It's going to take some effort on both parts. And you're probably going to have some people that you think are your friends and it turns out they're not. You're probably going to have some points where you want to give up because you're like, dude, this is messy. But real friendship is messy. It's vulnerable. You're going to have to be yourself. You're going to have to take off the mask and let that person see you for who you really are. I'm going to promise you it's worth the effort. It's so worth the effort. I struggle. This is one of those, I promised you at the beginning of the show, I would be vulnerable with you if you would be honest with yourself. And so I'm just telling you, this is one of the places in my life that I have really struggled with in my life. It's tempting to look around and to compare what our friendship groups or our friends look like compared to other women's. And I don't know if anybody else knows of a girl gang. These people, they're like this, they're like a unit. I swear they have like synchronized like schedules. I don't know. Like they show up at all the same places wearing matching tennis skirts and like their hair's all braided at the same way. I don't know, y'all. I'm not wired that way. But if that's your jam, sis, go for it. That gives me anxiety thinking about it, because what I've realized is I'm really good with like one or two, like on one. Not that I have one or two friends. I'm saying like one on one, like when I'm with you one on one, I have some very deep friendships, but they're pretty isolated in nature. Like they don't bleed into other relationships very much. Like if that's making sense to you. You've got these people in your life that just they're worth the effort. But that doesn't mean they all have to be like, you don't have to have like a girl gang, okay? So whatever yours looks like, I just want to tell you that that's okay. This is about quality over quantity. This is about quality over whatever social media makes it look like, or whatever culture wants you to believe you have to have for it to be real or be good or be enough. I want you to know that God made you exactly how he needed you to be made. He wired you specifically for relationships with people that only you can have. And that's it. That's the way it needs to be celebrated, y'all. That's how it needs to be celebrated. The challenge for you today is this, okay? It's not necessarily, it is a conversation starter, but it's a conversation starter of a different nature. It's this. I want you to think about the real reals in your life. I want you to think about these people who are really your authentic friends. They're the real deals, okay? You may have one, you may have five. If you've got more than five, I'm going to be real surprised, okay? But I want you to think about who these people are. People you can be authentic with. They celebrate you, you celebrate them. There's no jealousy in keeping score here. They don't quit on you. These are the people who they're authentic and they support you and you support them and y'all ain't quitting on each other. Those are your people. Okay. So I want you to think of those people and then I want you to tell them what they mean to you. Your conversation starter may be a phone call today to say, I need you to know what a blessing you are to me. And I need you to know how much I love you. I need you to know that I am grateful for the friend you have been to me. And I'm sorry for the times I have let you down. Tell those people you need them. Those are the people that God has placed in your life that are they're a blessing, man. And if y'all are watching me on YouTube, I am a crier, okay? Like I'm the girl who gets teary-eyed. I cry when I worship. I cry at church like every Sunday because like worship music just undoes me. I cry all the time. That's just like, I just have like emotions just kind of leak out of my eyes. So as we're getting to know each other on the camera and you realize that I talk with my hands a lot. I also cry a lot and sometimes I'll just have tears. I can be smiling and have tears running down my face. So we're just, we are stripping away all pretense at the Even If podcast, y'all, because life is too short to be fake, right? I want us to be the real reals. I want us to be the real deals. I want us to be real, authentic people. And I want us to have real, authentic relationships. So that is how we're ending it today. I want you to go tell these people you love them. I want you to go tell them what they mean to you. And I want you to just embrace all of it. Even if it's messy and you fight and you kiss and make up, like stick in it and don't you be quitting on them, okay? Don't you be quitting. All right. I think that does it for us today. I am always so grateful whenever we get to share a little bit of time every Tuesday together. So thanks for being here and good Lord willing, I'll see you next week.